In the nicest possible way, I'd rather I wasn't here today. 30 years ago and precisely 1 hour ago, I married my best friend and the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. That's just one person, by the way. And I've been inflicted on her talk of demolition diggers, my taste in facial hair, and other abject miseries ever since. So happy anniversary, Mrs. A. We're supposed to be in Venice right now, looking over the lagoon, eating our body weight in seafood, sipping Aperol spritz to the point of unconsciousness. And I should be whispering sweet nothings to the love of my life, instead of which I'm sat here on my own talking to you on a webcam. So you'll forgive me if I have a faraway look in my eyes. Don't take it personally. I'd just rather be far away today. The show will start properly any time now, but there's something else I'd like to share with you first. The postman knocked at the door of Demolition News Towers this morning, and he laid on the floor a package, and then he retired to a safe distance while I picked it up. I assume he backed off for social distancing, but I've got to be honest, I don't look my best in the morning, so I might have just scared the guy away. Anyway, the package he delivered contained the first of a new line of Demolition branded merchandise. Are you ready? What do you think? I've got to be honest, I was quite pleased with it. I think it looks pretty good. It's patriotic at a time when the nation is united behind a single important cause, i.e. staying alive. And let's be honest, it's timely too. So I took a selfie of me modelling the mask this morning. I put it on social media. And surprise, surprise, the massed ranks of the permanently outraged let me know precisely what they thought of my idea. Apparently, it's inappropriate. It's ill-timed. It's in poor taste, and I shouldn't be seeking to make money from a global pandemic. So, given that I've got a public platform, let's take those points one at a time, and I promise the show really will start any minute now. At a time when people are starting to return to work and where some workplaces are going to require face masks, I suggest that creating our own masks is wholly appropriate and perfectly timed. Taste is entirely subjective, I'll grant you that, but personally I can see no issue with combining the name of the industry in which I work, the nation in which I was born, and on a product that some will need. What's the problem? As for making money from a global pandemic, let's be honest, I don't honestly expect that will be the case. I'm certainly not expecting to sell them by the cartload. Besides, we're not forcing anyone to buy them. We don't force you to buy our t-shirts, our hoodies, hats, mugs, bags, or children's wear either. So if you like the masks, please feel free to buy one or more. If you're outraged by the idea, that's fine as well. Don't buy one. But don't berate me about it either. I really don't care about your petty outrage. Some of us, frankly, have got bigger fish to fry. Speaking of which, today's show. Now, we don't have a guest today. We do have a good one for you tomorrow. So stick around to the end of today's show and I'll tell you more then. Till then, you just have to put up with me. I awoke this morning to the news that, according to the Office of National Statistics, COVID-19 has now claimed the lives of some 200 construction workers here in the UK. According to that same report, that means that you're 2.5 times more likely to die from COVID-19 if you work in a construction occupation. On the basis that I get angry at the fact that accidents kill 30 or 40 British construction and demolition workers each year, I would have expected my reaction to that news to be very, very different. But rather than feeling frustrated, upset, shocked, angry, annoyed, I mainly just felt numb. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. For one thing, with each passing day carrying with it a new higher death toll, another 200 almost feels normal at this point. I know it isn't, but it feels it. Furthermore, although it would not have helped, there is no suggestion to the fact that the sites that have remained open have contributed to those 200 deaths. Now, from the very outset, I've pinned my colours very much to the mast of site closures. I was and I remain convinced that earmarking all construction and demolition staff as key workers was too broad a brush. I believe that non-essential works should have been halted. I also believe that a rush back to work, or a premature rush back to work at least, could expose thousands more demolition and construction workers and contribute to that dreaded second wave that our scientists are talking about so frequently now. But I'll happily admit there's no evidence to suggest that construction and demolition companies are directly to blame for their workers contracting this awful disease. Yet for all of this, I'm surprised at my own reaction, or lack thereof, to the news that we've lost 200 of our number. And maybe on some level, my heart is currently in Venice. Maybe having watched weeks and weeks of daily coronavirus news updates, I've just become desensitized in some way. And maybe 30 or more years reporting on demolition and construction has just rendered me attuned to the very notion of death, and to the fact that if you work in these industries, your chances of being killed immediately increase exponentially. For all the strides that we've made in the field of health and safety, demolition and construction exists in the valley of the shadow of death. It shouldn't, but it does. An old friend of mine was a paramedic years ago. He was a tough guy, not in a fighting way, although he could sort of hold his own in that department. But he was just one of those guys, just very strong and resilient. Even so, in the early days of him working as a paramedic, attending an accident, particularly those involving children, would always come home with him. He'd become quiet, and he was isolated himself long before it became fashionable, while he processed the emotions that he had to hold in check while he was at work. Over the years, however, we all saw him erect an emotional shield. And looking back, I'm sure he just internalized a lot of his feelings, that he bottled up things to protect his friends, his family, and himself from the realities of his job. But repeated exposure to death, slowly, ever so slowly, hardened him to it. Is my reaction, or lack thereof, to the news of 200 construction deaths indicative of me becoming equally numb? I hope not. But if it is, I guess I can live with it. But the industry can't. The moment we accept death and injury as part and parcel of this occupation is the moment that incidents of both increase. And we must not, and we cannot allow that to happen. Now, I'm going to give you an update on tomorrow's guest in a second, but we had a couple of messages in here. Good afternoon, Paul. I will let you know how to order one very, very shortly. We've got it up on the website now, so I'll certainly let you know that. Thanks for being here. Scott, thank you very much. Hope you have a great day. I'll let you know how to get one of the masters. Thanks for the wishes on the anniversary as well. That's very kind of you. Thanks very much for your input on those today, guys. Now, tomorrow's guest will be Leo Scott Smith of a Lincolnshire-based company called Tended. Tended have been very quick off the mark in response to the need for social distancing. Leo's company has created a wearable wristband that not only alerts the wearer that they are within 2 meters of a colleague, but it also logs these encroachments, for want of a better term, on a centralized dashboard for future analysis and audit. So it's almost like a site-based track and trace solution for construction and for demolition as well. I'm looking forward to finding out more. I'm a bit of a technology fan anyway, and the very fact that somebody has leapt so very quickly to the rescue of the industry, or the potential rescue of the industry, particularly at a time when it looks like a few more sites are going to open and we're going to be rushing back to work. I think that's very timely. So if you are around, if you haven't already rushed back to work, please join us here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let us have your comments and questions if you have any. I'm sure we'll be able to hook you up with a demonstration of some description, and Leo will be able to tell you more. Until then, I will put the link to the face masks for those that want them in the description for today's show once we post it over on YouTube. I'll add it on Facebook as well once we've finished going live with this as well. So if you do want one, you can certainly buy one. As I say, no pressure. If you want one, great. If you don't want one, I fully understand. And if you can't afford one, my apologies. The price of these things is way beyond my control, I'm afraid. Until then, while there is still time to go and spend some time with my far better half, I'm going to call it a day and sign off until tomorrow at 3 p.m, as I say, with Leo Scott Smith of Tended. Until then, particularly in light of today's news, 200 construction workers killed by COVID-19. Look after yourself first and foremost. Look after your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Stay safe, and I will see you again same time, same place tomorrow. Thanks for being here. And for those that have left the kinder comments on the face masks, I do appreciate it. I'm actually quite proud of it. I think that's pretty smart, to be honest. And for the rest of you, well, personal preference. And I will see you tomorrow. All the very best.